It's been a subject that's been debated exhaustively, the idea that President Donald Trump's rhetoric is emboldening violence. But as the media was recently reminded, just because an assertion about Trump and hate crimes rings true doesn't necessarily mean it is. Adam Riley has more.
It was an incendiary claim about the president. Back in March, 3 academics wrote in the Washington Post that they'd crunched the numbers and found that counties which held Trump campaign rallies saw a 226% increase in reported hate crimes over comparable counties that did not. The media ran with it.
It's a relatively sophisticated analysis. They showed a strong effect.
They simply looked at the numbers.
And the numbers seemed plausible, what with statements like this.
They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime. They're rapists.
And incidents like this.
2 men just off the train accused of attacking a homeless man. They told police Donald Trump was right. All these illegals need to be deported.
But now 2 Harvard Ph.D. students contend the study was flawed because if you apply its methodology to Hillary Clinton rallies, the hate crime increase is even bigger. When a result feels right, they argue, falling prey to confirmation bias is easy.
Can we count on a retraction here?
Apparently not. The authors of the original study are standing by their work, saying, among other things, we contend it is incorrect to include monthly controls in a fixed effects model where the data set is already set as panel data. Huh? Apparently, just looking at the numbers is trickier than it sounds.
I mean, that was just an incomprehensible explanation. But, you know, a couple things should have been a flag for the press on this, because this was a couple months ago. Everybody was sort of gleefully reporting this. The study was still in peer review. So it hadn't come out as officially kind of confirmed. And also this whole thing about correlation versus causation. I mean, we're always quick to think just because something has a correlation, oh, that must be the reason that it happened. But it's not necessarily true. This has been a bugaboo of mine for years, this whole thing about studies. And you got to look at who does it, what their intent is, what the intended outcome is. And it almost feels like confirmation bias is the perfect term for this because many people in the media wanted it to be true.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, I have to say, I'm a skeptic of social science in general, and I think you are too, Emily. That said, I actually thought that the 2 Harvard students' refutation of the study was less impressive than the original study.
Yeah.
However, they do make one really good point in there, and that is that we sometimes wonder where do charges of liberal bias come from? And I think this is where liberal-leaning reporters who like to think that they don't go down the path of showing their bias kind of get sucked in because it does play into their biases. And they think, oh, this is good science, so I'm just going to go with it.
Yeah, and right in there along with bias, I think in many cases, is laziness. These studies that flow into your email, if you work in journalism, you know, every day, they're easy pickings. Oh, that's going to give me a hook for an easy story. When really, a lot of times they're garbage. Just because they have an academic veneer on them doesn't necessarily mean that they've been peer-reviewed, that they were rigorous, or that they're true. So a lot more skepticism and a little energy into checking these things out is warranted. But, you know, we had something like this just the other day, Wallet Hub, this website that spews out these studies on a regular basis, came up with one that showed that Boston had the second best transportation in the country. Wow, that was counterintuitive. Everybody had a good chuckle over that. You look at the study, nobody in the study got over a C+ grade for their city's transportation. And the quality of it, basically, it was garbage. No one should have
Well, how about that thing, Stephanie Pollock saying that the HOV lane is primarily used by single drivers? Totally untrue.
And now she
yet
said
everybody went through it.
Yeah, well.
Yeah. I remember years ago I worked at a station and they had a health reporter who every study that came through, it was the latest thing, you know, breathe air and you'll get cancer, you know, and then a few months later you'd find out, well, no, the study, that was an early study, and you know, a lot of these studies, as you pointed out, they are just putting them out there sometimes to get funding, sometimes it's just the first stage as part of a broader study. And I do agree that it's basically candy for journalists. It's very easy. You need something, you got to get that health story. You have to get that one story. You go, you get a study, you get an expert who will respond to it, and you find someone who's longing for a study to be true to address their issue, and you have a story. And I think that's really
Red wine was the classic.
Yes, exactly. And that's really what's, I think, at the heart of this oftentimes.
So, as a former health reporter, looking at a bazillion of studies, one of the things that puzzled me about this, it says on the front page of their study, nothing can be released without the expressed permission of the authors. So did they make it available? That's my question. Or how did somebody come across it? That's the first thing. The second thing, and of course we're talking about the difference between journals of substance and others that do not have it. But in my day, if you breathed a word of what your study was about and you were trying to get in the New England Journal of Medicine, you were out. I don't care how much everything you had done. If that leaked before they had a chance to go through the process, you could never see the inside of the New England Journal of Medicine. That was just, the standard. So I don't know how many other places go with that. And even then, let me just say, so the studies make it into the New England Journal of Medicine. We're reporters, we're not scientists. We sometimes take what appears to be the sexiest part of it and go run with it, and often don't say, but yet I have heard a lot of journalists do this. Hey, this is a small population. Scientists need to really try it in a larger setting to see if it's true. One last thing. There are enough incidents where people are running around saying, Donald Trump is my guy, and he's the one that I'm following and doing this action. So I don't even know if you're trying to prove that there was some, and you can't even prove, to your point, because you needed more than one or two people, that there is some relationship with what he is saying and people who are being stirred by it. Use the facts of the stories that are out there. And you didn't have to go to a study that maybe hadn't been peer reviewed to say that. There are real people out there already saying it.